The sheets still smelled of fresh lavender, sunlight poured through the wide glass windows, and the silence in the suite was as still as a dream. But the most extraordinary thing in the room wasn't the $1,000,000 view or the chandelier that sparkled like 1,000 stars. It was the girl curled up at the edge of the massive bed, her shoes still on, her worn uniform creased, and a small tear trailing down her cheek as she clutched a ragged little notebook to her chest. She hadn't meant to fall asleep. She never would have dared, but she was exhausted, broken, and just needed 5 minutes of rest. That was all. What she never expected was that the owner of the suite, the billionaire who'd flown in from London that morning, would walk in quietly, stop mid-step, and just stand there, staring at her like time had stopped. Something in his heart shifted that day, and he didn't even know her name yet. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty of the human heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support helps us keep telling stories that move and inspire. Let's dive into this one. Her name was Elena Cruz, 22, born and raised in the tough side of El Paso, Texas. Life had never handed her anything easy. Her mother worked 3 jobs until her back gave out, and her father, well, he left when she was 7 and never came back. Elena was the oldest of 3, and by the time she was 16, she had traded her prom dress for a mop in her textbooks for night shifts. Every dollar she earned went to rent, diapers for her baby sister, and keeping the lights on in their tiny 2-bedroom apartment. The hotel job wasn't glamorous. 5 stars for the guests, 2 hours of sleep for the cleaning staff. Elena worked on the 18th floor, elite clients only, where billionaires slept in beds she could barely imagine, and actors tossed designer suits on the floor like they meant nothing. She never spoke to the guests. She wasn't allowed to, but she often paused for a second after making each bed, wondering what it would feel like to sleep without fear, to wake up without worry, to live without fighting every single day just to survive. It was on a Wednesday, after a night without sleep because her baby brother had a fever, that Elena stumbled into Suite 1802. Her schedule said the guest wouldn't arrive until late evening. She checked twice, just to be sure. The room was empty, and she was grateful. Her head throbbed, her limbs ached, and her vision swam. She cleaned faster than usual, every muscle screaming. Finally, she sat on the edge of the giant bed just to catch her breath, and the next thing she knew, her eyes fluttered shut, the softness beneath her too warm to resist. She was asleep in seconds, notebook still clutched in her arms. What she didn't know was that Damien Thorne, the reclusive billionaire tech investor who had made headlines for vanishing from the public eye after his fiancée died in a tragic accident, had requested early check-in. He wasn't supposed to be there yet, but he walked in, suitcase in hand, exhausted from a transatlantic flight, and stopped cold. There, on his bed, was a girl. Not a woman in designer heels or heavy makeup, but a girl in a faded blue cleaning uniform, her dark brown hair falling over her cheek, lashes long, lips parted in a soft breath. Her notebook, half open, showed scribbled pages, some in Spanish, some in English, dreams, poems, tiny prayers, and doodles of a house by the beach. Damien didn't know why he stood there for 5 whole minutes. Maybe it was the way she looked so at peace, despite the wear on her body. Maybe it was because he hadn't seen anyone look that vulnerable in a long, long time. Or maybe, his heart, once hardened by tragedy, recognized something in her. He didn't wake her. He simply sat down on the couch across the room, watching the light shift across the walls as time passed. When Elena stirred, panicked and horrified to realize she'd fallen asleep where she never should have, she bolted upright. Her face drained of color when she saw him. She stammered apologies, tried to grab her things, but her knees nearly gave out from the shock. She waited for the yelling, the threats, the call to the manager. But none of that came. Instead, Damien said something she never expected. "Are you all right?" Those 3 words cracked something open in Elena. No guest had ever looked at her like she mattered. Her voice trembled as she answered, unsure if it was a trick, but he just nodded, stood, and said softly, "Take the day off. Please." She thought she was going to be fired. She waited for the call, dreaded it. But it never came. Instead, 3 days later, she was called to the front desk. A message had been left for her. A small envelope, with her name written in the neatest handwriting she'd ever seen. Inside was a note. "You forgot your notebook. I hope you'll let me return it over coffee, DT." From there, something unexpected began. A connection. Slow, hesitant, but undeniable. He was curious about her poems. She was cautious about his wealth. He offered her small moments of kindness, a quiet dinner in the hotel cafe, a walk through the gardens, real conversation. She was wary, always keeping a part of herself guarded. But Damien wasn't like the men who snapped fingers or tossed tips without eye contact. He listened. He noticed. He asked. Elena told him about her siblings, her dreams of becoming a teacher, the way life had stolen her childhood. Damien, in turn, shared his grief, the loss of the woman he once loved, the guilt he carried, the emptiness money couldn't fill. They were from two different worlds, but both were bruised in ways that made them see each other clearly. But the world didn't stop spinning just because two hearts found a fragile thread between them. Gossip at the hotel exploded. Coworkers whispered. Management questioned her. Damien's presence drew paparazzi. Elena felt the pressure mount, the eyes, the judgment. "He's a billionaire. You're a cleaning girl," someone spat one day when she was mopping the marble floor. The word stung, but what hurt more was the doubt in her own heart, that maybe she wasn't enough, that she'd always be the girl who cleaned the rooms of people like him. Then came the breaking point, when Child Protective Services threatened to take her siblings after a neighbor reported unsafe conditions in their apartment. Elena broke down in the supply closet that evening, muffling her sobs against the shelves of towels. Damien found her there. She hadn't told him about the threat. She didn't want to burden him. But he sat beside her on the floor, took her hand gently, and said, "Let me help. Not because I pity you, but because I believe in you." That night, he bought them a home. Not a mansion, not something showy, just a clean, safe, warm place for her family. But more than that, he made a promise, to walk beside her, not ahead of her. To lift her, not change her. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was work. It was real. Elena went back to school. Damien took a step back from the media. Together, they found healing, in slow mornings, laughter, family dinners, and late-night poems shared under starlight. And yes, in time, love bloomed. Not the kind that dazzles for the cameras, but the kind that roots deep in the soul, quiet, steady, and fierce. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that love can be found in the most unexpected places, and that kindness can change lives, please like, share, and comment your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support means more than you know. Special request. Tell us in the comments, do you believe a moment of compassion can change a life forever? We'd love to hear your thoughts.